Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, BCG. Now review Clannad, please. Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy, and today is a very monumental and special day because it is the day that I finally did the impossible. I turned 21 years old. Just feeling all the love right now. It's like, thank you. And oh yeah, I'm doing some review or something today for an anime. Whatever. I'm just messing. Calm down. Yes, today is a very monumental day. Not only because it is my 21st birthday and the day that I've become a full-fledged adult, but I finally completed an anime that you all have been begging and pleading me to watch for almost 5 years now. And that anime is Clannad and Clannad After Story. Now this review is going to be a 2-for-1 special for you guys. Consider it a gift from me to you, even though it's my birthday and I should be the one getting gifts. And what I mean by a 2-for-1 special is that instead of clumping in Clannad and Clannad After Story into one whole review and giving it one grade, I'm actually going to review both Clannad and Clannad After Story as independent reviews, each with their own grade. So with all that said, let's get started with my review of the first season, Clannad. Now Clannad is a very simple story that follows a character by the name of Tomoya Okazaki, who's like this delinquent kid, although doesn't really come off as a delinquent, at least in my book. He's more like a misunderstood youth. And it basically follows him as he builds relationships with all these various people throughout the entire anime. One in particular with this girl named Nagisa Furukawa, who he builds a romantic relationship with. Now many of you may recall that I have seen Clannad before, back in 2008. And needless to say, it left a lasting impression on me, albeit a negative one. You see, at that point in my life, I wasn't really that into drama animes. I was still into the whole action or comedy animes, which this anime didn't have any of those elements. So, needless to say, it didn't speak to me. I didn't pull my interest, and I found the drama very overbearing, and I just didn't like it. It depressed me. But after 6 years of not seeing this anime and having watched it again, I've grown a huge appreciation for this anime, and it's much better than I remember. But there is one element that I did like that has not changed since 2008, and that is the animation. It is still as beautiful and serene as when I first saw it. I mean, I loved the animation in this anime. But again, you come to expect it when it's an anime based off of a key game. The animation is going to look marvelous. And actually, there's an element in this anime that really surprised me 6 years after my initial viewing. This anime is much funnier than I remember. I mean, whenever I thought of Clannad, I always thought of the most depressing and saddest anime I've ever seen. But there are actually some lighthearted and very comedic moments in this anime, especially with Sunahara, who is actually my favorite side character in the entire anime. I mean, this guy was freaking hilarious. And some scenes where he would be talking to this one girl named Tomoyo, I mean, they were hilarious. I was surprised. Again, I thought it was going to be drama from beginning to end, and I was going to be like, oh God, please make it end, it's so depressing. But actually, there is a really good balance between comedy and drama. One does not overshadow the other. It's evenly distributed throughout the anime. And that's one of the greatest aspects of the anime itself, that good balance, which makes for a good anime. Another great aspect of this anime is its stories, all of which are very well told, emotionally driven with great character moments, and all of which have very good resolutions. I was very satisfied with all the story endings, all of which ending on very good notes with characters fully realized. Not only did they have really good stories, but they also had really good backstories. My two favorites are Kotomi's and Tomoyo's. Kotomi's literally made me tear up. I mean, that whole backstory was just sad. There's a scene in the backstory that when I saw it, I started just to tear up. It was that emotional. And the last thing I'll mention dealing with story is that I loved the focus on family throughout this entire anime. In most animes, they don't really pay much attention to the family unit. It's more or less pushed to the side, or whenever they do feature it, it's very short and brief. But in this anime, the family is at the heart of the story. That's where all the emotion is. And I really loved how they fleshed out the different family dynamics and family structures. That's where all the drama came from, and that's where the most interesting stories lied. One of my favorites is the one between Tomoya and his father. Very unique, very dynamic, and it kind of ends at a point to where it's not fully resolved in this season. It gets resolved in the second one, but for where they ended it here in the first season, I thought it was handled very well. And then, again, I just really love the focus on family in this anime. And it makes sense because the anime is called Clannad, which means family in Irish. But you can't tell a good story without good and interesting characters. And does Clannad have good and interesting characters? I say yes. Most of the characters are very multi-layered and each one has a unique characteristic to them, and they're all just very likable. My favorite characters, of course, Sunahara. I love Sunahara. Tomoyo was one of my favorite girls. Kotomi was one of my favorite girls, and I did really like the main character, Tomoya Okazaki. I just love how he would pull pranks on his friends and on various people. He had a very relatable personality, and I really liked him. And the various relationships throughout this entire anime, for the most part, are handled very well, especially Tomoya's relationship with every person throughout this entire anime. And I really did like Nagisa's parents. I mean, they were my favorite parent duo in this anime as well. And the last thing that I not only like about this anime, but absolutely love, is the music in the anime. It is just as beautiful and as calming and lovely as the animation itself. That Dango song, I'll never forget it. It is that memorable, it is that catchy, and it just resonates with me. It's one of my all-time favorite ending themes. Just a perfect song in my opinion. The opening is not that bad either, and some of the instrumentals in the anime are really good as well. But now we get to the stuff that I really didn't like about this anime, and the first one's gonna really shock you actually. And what is this shocking first thing that I didn't really like in the first season, you may ask? Well, actually, it's our main love interest, Nagisa. I know, calm down, let me explain. Although I didn't really hate her, and I don't think she's a bad character at all, I just found her very generic and blah. She didn't really stand out of a crowd. I mean, in the first season, all she really does is smile and cry. It got kind of irritating and repetitive. She didn't really stand out compared to the other girls. I mean, if I was the main character of this anime, I wouldn't have really found a reason to romance a girl like Nagisa. I mean, yeah, she's cute, yeah, she's nice, but other than that, she doesn't really have much going for her in the personality department. I mean, all the girls in this anime are cute and nice, but they also have something that makes them stand out of a crowd. But with Nagisa, she cries a lot, I guess. I really don't count that as something that makes her stand out of a crowd. I don't think that's a pro at all. But that's just my personal opinion. I didn't really find her that interesting in the first season. And the last issue that I have with the first season is that I felt like some of the characters and story moments were not explored to their fullest. I mean, they had a lot of potential, they just never took that route or direction to really flesh them all out. One example of this story-wise is that there's this parallel story dealing with this girl who lives with a robot that she builds in a parallel world. That was pretty interesting, and the animation in there is just gorgeous, really good. And I would have loved to see more of this world that they lived in, but we really don't see it that much. We get glimpses of it now and again, and they last about maybe a minute or two, and then that's it. Some characters that I wish they fleshed out a little bit more were the twins, Kyo and Ryo. I mean, Ryo wasn't that interesting. She was kind of like a second-rate Nagisa to me, but I would have loved to know more about her. I mean, she would have been interesting if we got a little more focus given to her. And I really liked Kyo. She was so cool. She was so funny, yet I felt like out of all the girls in this anime, she kind of got the weakest development. Her and her sister. Would have been nice to see a story that focused on them. And I really wish that they fleshed out Sunohara's relationship with his sister. I mean, there's an episode where the sister comes to visit him, and I thought they were going to explore a little bit more of the dynamic of their relationship, considering that they're family, right? Not really. They kind of explore it a little bit, but that's it. You don't really get much. But overall, not only was Clannad better than I thought it would be, but it's a really, really good drama anime with a lot of emotional scenes, great, well-developed, and likable characters, great story, great animation, and beautiful, lovely music. And that's why I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think that it is definitely worth watching. And now we begin the second review in this video, and that review is on the second season of Clannad After Story. Now at the end of Clannad, Tomoya asked Nagisa to be his girlfriend, and of course, she said yes. So, Clannad After Story basically continues the love story between Tomoya and Nagisa as they graduate from high school and start a life of their own. Now everybody and their mother were telling me how good After Story was. Like, you gotta watch Clannad After Story, it's so great, oh my god Tony, you gotta see Clannad After Story. So, I finally did, and although it had a bit of a rough start, it is a really, really good story. First off, getting the most obvious thing out of the way, animation is still solid, still beautiful, loved it. One thing that I really appreciate about the second season of Clannad was just how mature it was, from how they talked about their relationship to other darker subject matter. I really liked the direction that they took here in the second season, and I loved how they developed the relationship between Nagisa and Tomoya. I really love their relationship. And guess what? I really like Nagisa now. After, the first season when she didn't really stand out, now that it's more focused on their relationship, I can now kind of see why Tomoya likes Nagisa. I mean, she's very supportive, she's very helpful, and she is determined. She has personality now, whereas in the first season, she's just kind of there and, you see her. Here, she is a full-fledged, well-developed, and interesting character. I loved it. And kind of continuing off of that, most of the characters here in the second season, they're all still very likable. Although it kind of sucks that most of the main and supporting characters from the first season aren't as prevalent here in the second. But it's okay because the main focus, the main heart of the second season is the relationship between Tomoya and Nagisa. And as long as they develop that well and they put a lot of focus in it, I won't have a problem. Although the second season was really lacking a lot of hilarious Sunohara moments. Just saying. But even though most of the main and supporting characters in high school from the first season aren't around that much here in the second, there is a lot of focus put on all the adult characters here in the second season. Like, you get more bonding moments between Tomoya and Nagisa's parents. I mean, he spends time with each of them, each one being very unique and different. Like, whenever he's hanging out with Akio, sometimes it could be serious or it could be really hilarious. There is a moment here in the second season that actually made me laugh out loud a lot. I won't ruin it here for you, but it was really good. And whenever he would bond with Sanai was really good as well. Very emotional. Yoshino becomes more relevant and plays a pivotal role here in the second season, and we actually get an interesting backstory with him that was really emotional as well. I really liked it. But honestly, my favorite adult character that becomes more prevalent here in the second season is actually Tomoya's father. I teared up at his backstory. I teared up when Tomoya reconciles with him. It was really emotional. It hit me right here. I just really loved every scene with his character, all of which were very emotional, very well done, and oh my god, it ended so well. It was so good. Those scenes alone made this anime for me. They were so well done. And speaking of that, yes, there are a lot of emotional and heart-wrenching scenes in the second season, more than in the first season, and they range from very depressing and sad to uplifting and touching. I would say the ones that were uplifting and touching, in my opinion, were the scenes where Tomoya is bonding with his father and he gets an understanding of the sacrifice his father made, and he kind of rekindles that relationship. So touching. Or when he rekindles his relationship with his daughter, her name is Ushio, I believe that's how you pronounce it. If I said it wrong, apologize. But that also touched me. That scene in the field, it was just also touching. But at the same time, there are a lot of depressing moments. Kind of going off of the whole father, there's a scene where the father does something and Tomoya goes to visit him, and it was just, he was disgusted with him. Like, his face is just like, I want nothing to do with you. You ruined my life. And it was just heartbreaking, you know, to say something like that to your father. It's just the guy that raised you. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of, you know, problems that they were dealing with, but it just hurt to hear him say that to his father. And there is a major scene in this anime that a lot of people talk about, but again, I will not spoil for you guys, but it got me, you know, it really got me right here. But this might piss off a lot of people. I actually had a lot of problems with the second season of Clannad. The first and probably the biggest problem that I had with the second season was the first 3 episodes. My God, they were really bad. I mean, that's how you want to start off this incredible second season that everybody talks about? That was just terrible. Those stories in the first 8 episodes, they ranged from mediocre to just downright silly. I mean, the first episode where they're challenging that team in baseball, I mean, it was a little charming. I liked it. But episode 2 all the way to 8, my God, just some of the silliest and over-the-top melodrama I've ever seen in this entire series. And all of it was pointless. I mean, in the first story, you got Tsunohara and his sister, and they have a distant relationship, which I found very bizarre because they didn't establish that in the first season. It seemed like they had a stable relationship, but here in the second one, it's like, oh no, we don't talk anymore. He's not the same brother I remember. I was like, when did that happen? How did you go from this to that in a matter of months? That was weird to me. And Tsunohara really felt out of character in this story. I mean, the things that he does in the story, it doesn't feel like something that Tsunohara would do. It just felt weird. The second story dealt with Mise, I think that's her name, the blue-haired chick that watches over the dormitory that Tsunohara stays in, and it tells her story of when she met this boy when she was in high school, and it was charming, but the ending was all sorts of ridiculousness. I mean, I felt like I was watching a cartoon or something. And that's not what I want to feel like when I'm watching Clannad. I mean, I want to feel like it was an emotional story. And at times it was. It just felt really silly. But not as silly as our third story where we have these 2 rival gangs that fight each other, and I guess it's like a West Side Story kind of thing. I don't really remember what the story was about. It was just really silly and ridiculous. And I don't understand why Tomoya had to fight the leader of the other gang. It made no sense. He wasn't a part of that gang. He had no real standing with them. He didn't have to. It just kind of seemed out of character. And again, that ending was so ridiculous and bizarre. I mean, there's a reveal that shocked me, but not in the good way. It was just like, what? Really? It was so stupid. All 3 of these endings were anticlimactic and just downright terrible. And speaking of endings, the ending to this anime, where do I begin? First off, it is a huge cop-out. Huge. I didn't like that. So what you're telling me is that after this one monumental thing happened and we go through a lot of character development, character growth, a lot of reconciliation, just great character moments, that all of that was for nothing? It was all negated? What? And no, I'm not against happy endings. I love happy endings. But when you make an ending that negates all of that character growth and development, it's not only a cop-out, but it feels like a waste of time, and you ruined all those great moments because they never happened. I just really hate cop-out endings that don't make no sense whatsoever and feels very forced, like they shoved it in there because after all of the depressing, sad moments that they gave us, they're like, don't worry, happy ending, here you go. What they should have done was stuck to their guns instead of pussying out. But overall, besides those problems that I had, I still really enjoyed watching Clannad After Story. I really love the emotional scenes, I really love the character development, the character growth, I love the bonds between characters, the animation is still good, and that's why I'm going to give this anime a 4 out of 5 stars. I think that it is definitely worth watching, especially if you're a fan of Clannad. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes my 2-for-1 review video for my 21st birthday. And I would like to know what you guys thought about Clannad and Clannad After Story. Did you really like it? Or did you find it really boring and depressing and you couldn't stand it? And let me know, what is your favorite key-based anime? An anime based off of a game developed by Key. Comment below and let me know. And if you would like to wish me a happy birthday, go ahead and put a comment below as well. I would really appreciate it. And I do have a few videos coming your way. I have another video next Wednesday on We Live Film. It's going to be on my top 5 Johnny Depp performances, so stay tuned for that. And other videos to come as well. But until then, guys, hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Welcome to the Black Critic Guy. Like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm 21 the second, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.
Wow.